My name is Veronica Rosa. I am Vice President of Advancement at Keene State College, and that means that I oversee philanthropy, alumni relations, ceremonies, and events. And we've got a wonderful team of people. I've been with Keene State for approximately 2 years, and I am fortunate every day for the team I work with, for the president I report to, and the experience that I've had for the past 2 years. I'm very grateful. We do have a hard stop at 5:30, so I just want to acknowledge that, if we can all be cognizant, to make sure people have time to get to the closing session and into trivia. And I also want to just begin and thank our poster session presenters. You stepped in, you shared some incredible knowledge with all of us, and we're very grateful that you put the time and attention into it. And I just would like to ask each of you to just give a little bit of overview of yourself, your background. And I would like to start with Tanika. We'll go in alphabetical order. So Tanika.
How often do I get the privilege of going first, right? Well, welcome, Becky. My name is Tanika at Kentucky State University. We are located in the great capital of the Commonwealth in Frankfort, Kentucky. I've been in my role. It's so funny because when I say Kentucky, I hear a Tennessee accent, Nashville. So it's just a few hours away, right? I have been in my role since October 2019, but overall in higher ed the past 10 years. In my role as the Associate Director, it is my job to provide student programming opportunities, continue to move planning initiative for the university and our departments, and also as in reference to this corporate partnership, to just kind of expound on how we continue networking and leveraging those relationships with internal and external partners.
Thank you, Tanika. And I'm going to move on to Daryl Love, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Daryl Love, and I serve as the Associate Vice President of Career Services and Professional Development at Kentucky State. Next week will mark 1 year, so I've been there a little bit over a year. And thank you. And my prior background is 30 years in corporate. So I had graduated from Lane College, moved to Lexington, started off as a programmer, moved to human resources where I did a little bit of HR, international and domestic, both on the hiring side, benefit side. And then I moved to our communications and corporate affairs group. So I did a lot of CSR work, but a lot of our CSR work was actually focused in education. So I had an opportunity to kind of start off working with educational organizations that our company sponsored and those types of things. And also I served locally on our school board. So it's like a blend of so many different areas, but it's been a pleasure to be able to join the KSU family, to get a chance to work with my two colleagues. And, you know, the wonderful thing, and we'll talk about this, is just the sweet spot of intersection, how we work together in a very collaborative way to really use the hashtag all the time, KSU Forward. And I think all of us are really deeply committed to making sure that we do whatever it takes to make sure that our university moves forward. So I'm pleased to be able to join you all today.
Excellent. Thank you, Daryl. And now on to Beverly Schneller, please.
Great. Hi. I'm Beverly Schneller. I am about to start my 3rd year here at Kentucky State. All 3 of us as colleagues share a Tennessee connection because I came here from Belmont in Nashville. And I am the Vice Provost for Academic Affairs. I just finished a 7-month stint as the acting provost for the university. And my work with Mr. Love this past year has been focused on the strategic plan.
Excellent, thank you. And because we have a small, intimate group, maybe Becky and it looks like Lucia Vasquez, maybe you could introduce yourselves as well. We can start with Becky.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Becky Nelson, and I am the newly hired Assistant Director of International Recruitment and Admissions at Northern State University up here in Aberdeen, South Dakota. I'm only 1 month into my role. Prior to being at Northern, I spent the last 8.5 years across China. So I spent 4.5 years in Hunan, China, a year in Shanghai, working for doing some corporate, and then the last 3 years working, or 3 years in Shenzhen working for a cross-cultural and HR consulting company. So we did HR training, leadership training, and cross-cultural training, and then I also spent 2 years working in a kindergarten. So kind of a wide smattering of different experiences, but actually came back for a visit and stayed because of COVID. So
Okay.
quickly decided to stay, and I've been very blessed to continue to work in international relations.
Excellent. Thank you, Becky. And Lucia Vasquez, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so my name is Lucia Vasquez. I'm the Associate Dean in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. We are looking for all kinds of new initiatives and partnerships. And the title in this kind of section of working with corporations and learning from your experiences is what kind of called my attention. So that's my experience.
Excellent. Thank you. And we have one more that joined, Bethany Morin. Bethany is with us at Keene State. She's fantastic. Bethany, did you want to introduce yourself? We have a small group, so we're able to be a little more interactive. Oh, you're on mute, Bethany.
My apologies. I'm Bethany Morin, as Veronica said, Director of Alumni Relations at Keene State College. I'm fortunate enough to be an alumna of the college. And with my role, it's definitely morphed quite a bit since I started working in alumni relations a number of years ago. And I'm really excited to how alumni can be engaged in the corporate partnerships and be conduits and avenues for that. So I'm excited to join in on the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you for being with us. So what we were going to do is jump in and let Daryl and Beverly and Tanika just give a little bit of background about what their presentation was, some key highlights that they think are important for all of us to be aware of. There were many components that I was impressed with and definitely want to beg, borrow, and steal from. So I hope that's why you shared, because that's what we'll do.
That's what we do, right?
Right? Right. So I didn't know which one of you would like to start, but I thought it might be nice if you jump in and give, talk about some key takeaways from your perspective that you think we should be paying attention to.
Well, I'll yield to Dr. Schneller first.
All righty. Thanks, Daryl. I guess given the fact that the audience members here are really interested in the corporate partnerships, I think we'll talk a little bit about how that worked. But we were tasked, Daryl and I were tasked last winter to start working on our new strategic plan for 2020 to 2025. Our president, M. Christopher Brown II, has been with us now for 4 years. And so this is his opportunity to be able to put his stamp and our stamp on our new strategic plan. And so one of the things that that the partnership that he placed Daryl and I in fostered was Daryl comes with a very, very strong community connections, corporate connections. My whole career has been in the academy, steadily leading groups of faculty to do things more than they thought that they probably should, but they definitely could. And so the two of us working together really focused on making sure that we had a strong sense of community in the organization that we created in our university team, as you saw in the video. But also it was really important for us to reach out and make sure that we had local Frankfurt people, citizens, very, very prominent citizens actually, as it turned out, given the president's corporate connections and city connections, and Mr. Loves and our Director of Government Relations, Dr. Rachel Johnson. And so between the three of them, really, they came up with a very, very good group of people who are community leaders. One of them is running for mayor right now in Frankfurt. Very, very invested citizens who really want to see Kentucky State grow and blossom. We're in that situation where people know that we're here, but they don't really know that we're here because no one lives in Frankfurt much, because it's the capital city. So you don't have a lot of people who are really living there. Most of us live in Lexington or in the surrounding areas. And so this was a real opportunity for us to, really enhance our purpose, our mission. And probably some of the best things that happened from the conversations was just for us to see the willingness of our community partners to engage with us. One of the most robust conversations we had, which was not represented in the PowerPoint, was we had the chair of the music department in our team, on our planning team, and we had quite a long conversation about how we could do concerts by the river, how we could use an amphitheater, how we could use some other auditorium spaces to bring our music department out and have more opportunities for the community to enjoy the wealth of our music program. And so what it has turned into for us is, in our process, we had these long brainstorming lists, that we reduced to 3 different areas that became the goals. But some of those things that were the most valuable about the community partnerships, it's overstating it to say they got left on the table, but they went into a different slot about how to do these things in ways that people will be really interested in. And of course, we have a very big distillery culture. We have a big racing culture here. And so the opportunities to partner with some of the other industries in the area would sort of be a domino effect from how we rolled out the things that we did in Frankfurt. Daryl, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up extremely well, because it did provide an opportunity. When you go back and you look at the mission for Kentucky State, and this was a really good opportunity for me to be able to engage with individuals throughout the university. If you want to talk about having a nice orientation and indoctrination type of process, work on a strategic plan,
Right.
working with everybody in the organization. And I think there are several things that were going on. And that was one around, yes, we wanted to be a little bit more internal in terms of what can we do as a university, because it's an internal, you think about the process that we're driving. But it also has these tentacles that reach externally, because the mission of the university is to really help advance the Commonwealth as well. So we're addressing the needs of our students. So when Dr. Schneller talked about our corporate partners that we have, and those could have been corporations or other interested stakeholders, those were the folks that were coming to say, this is what we need. These are ways in which we could use the university to help us in certain areas. So I think that type of information led itself into those particular discussions so that people could start to think more broadly about the possibilities, beyond just, let's say we're educating students, which is our core purpose, but if we're also educating students and we're helping in terms of investing back into the community, it's increasing the reputation of the university. It's showing the university is very vital to our area. And I think it helps in long-term sustainability. So we were thinking about this process. What I think was really great, because I was coming from a process around how we deal with a strategic plan and how we go through it. And at the same time, I'm understanding a new ecosystem of higher ed and how does it work and how do you bring people together. But I will say, I think, if you looked at the video that we kind of taped a little bit, the session, there were 5 stages that we talked about, which is planning, the listening, analyzing, developing, and executing. This number 2 step, I think, was where we really got a lot of richness, because people, sometimes, and I think the way the previous plan was done, it was kind of done a little bit more in isolation. And the president really wanted to have a very inclusive process. And I want you to know that our first meeting, we kind of laid out what we thought the process would be. We got feedback. And I will tell you, in a strategic plan, be a little bit more fluid and be open to change. Let your committee kind of recraft a little bit around, how is this process working right? What do you need? What are you not getting? So we were always, Dr. Schneller, you can attest, after every session, we were always coming back to say, help us see what we're not seeing. And as a result, we were able to make some corrections mid-cycle, but individuals felt overall when we walked away that, hey, I really felt heard. It was good for me to be able to share my input, and then for them to see that input reflected, in the process. But also when you look at the outcomes of around the plan, it is a plan designed by our community, designed by our staff, faculty, and also our students.
And I think that, typically strategic plans focus on, the tangible aspects of improved student experience. But because of the way that we went about ours, when we look at it now, because it's been finished for a couple of months, when we think about it from the angle of the role of our community partners, what they really helped us do was figure out how to pitch the university to the community. And that's not something you see often reflected in a strategic plan, that really deliberate marketing from the pitch, like the entertainment industry pitch. What do we have to offer? What do we look like? How do we sell it? How do we do the elevator pitch, literally, when you're meeting someone? We have a pretty prominent restaurant downtown where lots of corporate people go and government people go. And when you go there, you're going to be introduced to somebody who's in the community. They're going to ask you what you do, and you better have your pitch ready.
I can't wait to go there. I cannot wait for y'all to take me.
As soon as you finish your degree, we will take you to lunch there. How about that? Is that a deal?
Yes.
Because your defense is coming up, so we know we have the target date. But that's something that, and so our second goal in our strategic plan turned out to be focusing on the community and the environment, so that we could capture some of those crosswalk elements that people felt were important between the university and the community. And I think for us, for me at least, having done a lot of strategic plans, we always do operational efficiency. We always do improving student success. Less often do we take a university that has a lot to offer and have the opportunity to really bring the Klieg lights on and show what it is that we do. And so, it's not just that thing you see on the plan, improve our town-gown relationship. We have a fabulous opportunity to really create a town-gown relationship for the 22nd century. And that makes, for me, that's the most exciting part of the whole plan.
I agree with Dr. Schneller on that point, and that really is around the campus environment for success. And going back to our keynote speaker this morning, as people are talking a little bit about the challenges, of course, now, what does it mean when you talk about social justice? How is that impacting your campus? How, when you talk about a diverse and inclusive type of campus, what does that really mean? And so with KSU, we had to really grapple with that a little bit. And, and I think you have to move towards honest conversation. You really do. It can be sometimes painful. It can be like, oh, okay, it's just tiresome, but it's very beneficial because we are a diverse HBCU. So we have a culture that's kind of rooted in the HBCU experience. But when you think, and you've heard, you heard Dr. Gonzalez talk a little bit earlier today, about the student population, some of those types of things as well, it's very diverse. So how do you serve the needs? And you have to be listening to your students. And you have to be constantly evolving so that everyone feels they're a part of the KSU family, but they understand a little bit about the DNA of that particular family that you have. So it was really interesting as we talked a little bit about this, what students expect, what's the expectations for faculty, staff, et cetera, and the community. So we had to kind of have those conversations. And I think the real work, I will be honest with you, is the last phase when we really talk about the how you operationalize this whole process around, the processes you have in place and making sure that you're driving objectives and goals that are all centered towards moving around these three different areas.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was going to say, going back to a point Daryl made earlier about the dynamics of the meeting. We started in a climate where people's voices were not routinely heard. And so in our first meeting, I took a bit of a hit in the structure of the meeting, in that I let people vent and talk and just discuss things. And, for people who want more action, all the time, that was not as much of a productive meeting as some of the other ones became. but knowing that we don't really have many opportunities to come together in, and this was a large group, it was about 32, 33 people, but even coming together on campus like that, it was really, I stand by it. It was really important to allow people to talk and hear each other's voices, and because what it revealed, to me at least, was the passion that people felt and how they were going to be engaged. And, when you think about the new product development process, you have to be willing to take risks, and you have to be willing to spend time just listening and letting people clear their minds so they can begin to work on whatever the project is. And so by going through the sort of widget process of this is what we used to do, this is what we might like to see, we gained momentum to the point where people were finishing each other's sentences by the time we were at our last meeting. And that was a really important sign of growth.
That's fantastic, because oftentimes you have to work through the difficult conversation that you facilitated to get people to the next stage where they're open to really participating. I did have a question. One for Tanika. I had a question on what you're pursuing your doctorate in, because it sounds like you're almost done.
Yes.
And what was your role in the process as well?
So I just finished coursework on Saturday.
Yay.
So now it's just writing and finishing and editing. But my defense date is set for October 2nd. I hope it's prior to, but it's close. Yes. To kind of merge the two, because Daryl was in both presentations with the strategic planning piece with Dr. Schneller, and how we leverage the partnerships, because they make the magic happen, right, with the initial conversations. And my role is just really the follow through piece, especially being new to the Commonwealth, KSU. I sold my house in 5 days and moved. So it was all or nothing for me at this point, but it has been one of the yet seamless but challenging transitions on top of COVID, right? Because Daryl and I hadn't been in the office together since March 5th, and this was June 15th, right? So we had already implemented our career fairs, and as you all will know on your campus, that's the big thing in career services. How do we take our career fair and move it to an online platform? We thought outside the box. We planned that in February. So we were only had to transition the workshops from an online to a virtual platform. So with the presentation we presented to you guys, Daryl and the College of Business had conversations with Deloitte, which is in our backyard. We'll say that a lot. We're on the hill, but we have partnerships that are right in our backyard that are in. Deloitte was one of them that was just more innovative. We have, with everything that's going on, everybody has a diversity and inclusion initiative. But it's our goal to get our students ready for like the herd, because they're coming. We have had countless conversations. So when we had the conversation, our initial was a mock interview day. We had 5 companies that were coming to campus. We had our workshops lined up. So once we transitioned to an online platform, Deloitte said, how can we take this further? Let's do a virtual mentoring program. So we put our heads together. It was a win-win for us and our students. So they opened up the application process, they interviewed, and they selected those candidates. So on top of the feedback they provided to our students in a virtual setting, they selected these candidates to continue the mentoring relationship. As of now, it's up until December. They have freshmen, they have sophomores, they have juniors, they have seniors, they have a multitude of majors. When I checked in with a student, so what Daryl and I have done in our advising sessions was create action plans. So we have the follow-up to say, hey, did you do X, Y, and Z? So the FaceTime, Zoom, text, it's at their disposal. Daryl and I probably, Dr. Schneller too, we probably take more calls now on weekends ever. Because if a student has a question, they could be in a grocery store, they want to follow up with the interview that they just got out, and it's like 6 or 7 o'clock and in the afternoon. But Deloitte has been very, very influential. We extended the opportunity to Kevin Polari with Deloitte, but he had something else set up to attend this just to give his perspective. But he said, where we are as a university, we are just a stepping stone to rebuilding those relationships and partnerships, because they have not had a career center probably over the past 3 years as far as consistency.
I was just going to say, I was thoroughly impressed by how your 2 poster presentations were just merged seamlessly, and how they absolutely benefited. You really need one to do the other, because they both live.
Well, you know what? I'll say this, Veronica. I think that was the benefit, because coming into this process, and I will say this, Dr. Schneller has been great, not only in this process, but just kind of helping me navigate. So, I come with a different mindset in how I process. So many times we would be in her office and she would go like, okay, I see that didn't resonate with you. Like, okay, help me understand this, right? So as I was thinking about the Career Center and thinking about how do we function differently, because I don't have any preconceived notions that this is how it should work. All I know is what's best practice. I mean, I know from an employer perspective, worked in HR, when students come to us, I've had interns, we've done, what's that experience like? And then I know what employers are looking for. So the question is, what's that process? So as Ms. East talked about, with Deloitte, I mean, this was like, they approached us initially regarding, we have 2 positions that we want to hire for, and we're looking for some students. I immediately left, talked to our chair within our IT department. We got some candidates for them to interview. I then came back and said, hey, look, we really need for our students to have internships so they can understand a little bit more about the culture. They're not entering the organization blind. And they were like, okay. So then they came back and says, okay, guys, this is what we'll do. We'll offer some internships for KSU students. I mean, so that's very, very strategic, right? It's very, very targeted. So then the next thing we were like, okay, so now we need to make sure you guys can get on campus. And so as Ms. E said, we had planned out a lunch and learn with faculty. We had planned out a classroom presentation. And then after COVID hit, it was like, okay, so what can we do differently? And then it was like, okay, well, you've got mock interviews coming up. We transition those to be virtual through Zoom. They participated in that. They did, of course, their mentoring program. And so we're able to continue. But I think it has to be something where you're sitting down and you're outlining strategy based upon where an employer may be. And you have to be honest around, this is where we are within a university and what are the sweet spots. And so we've had conversations ever since the end of April. May has been spent. I can go back through countless conversations, and we meet with employers. We talk about the deadlines. We talk about what they're able to offer. And we're almost having to create all these different plans and then around for these particular employees of engagement. But if you're going to think about the work that you're talking about for student success, operational efficiency, and with now it's 2 of us, we're heavily relying upon Handshake and other technology to help us do our jobs more efficiently, right? I don't have to have an administrative assistant if I have Handshake and you can schedule your own appointments, right? So when it talks about, the follow-up with evaluations, with surveys, I have one place that I can put everything in. So that, I think, is the intersection around how you take a strategic plan that we've developed. And I think as we roll this out, we'll be talking a little bit about, okay, so how do you operationalize something? Well, if you take, for example, career services, this is how we link to operational efficiency. We're using technology, we're doing some things, and this is how we're helping with student success. We're working with our chairs and our deans on the academic side. So I think, and what I have tried to do is position career services as a strategic business partner in a university. Okay, it's like, together, how do we function? Help me understand. My question is, help me understand what I don't see and what we adjust so that we create win-win opportunities.
I want to interject to Bethany. with leveraging alumni relations, LinkedIn has been so vital. I've received so many messages from alumni, and AVP Love will tell you, we are not the social savvy Gen Z social media sexy version, right? We've had to just try our best, but we have had so many alumni to reach out to us and ask, just similar to Deloitte, how can I help? And it's the graduates that graduated 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that have these positions and are just trying to find ways to give back. So we put out a APB for this Monday, last Wednesday, and an alumni with another company did a presentation for us yesterday. And he's giving the students, my dad was an alumni, I met my wife, and this is how Kentucky State helped me. So our next session is going to be an alumni session where we have 4 that's lined up. So don't forget you are in a great role to just leverage outside the box. There's solely to partner with your career services office too.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, I would add that we're a SACS COC institution, and so SACS has the Quality Enhancement Program, the QEP, that is the theme that you do for your 5 years to build up your curriculum to solve a problem or enhance it or add a program of distinction. And so ours is called Learning That Works. And an essential pillar of Learning That Works is the Career Center. And so one of the things that Mr. Love and Ms. East and I have been working on is making sure that all the students have handshake accounts in their first semester of their first year. With that service, you can also have alums who have accounts as well. So we're, reaching out to our entire spectrum of students and former students saying, please take advantage of it. Faculty can have handshake accounts as well. So, it's a comprehensive tool that's very helpful in that regard. We chose with Learning That Works to create a course that is called, for Kentucky State, we just use the code KSU. So our KSU 186, we were founded in 1886. So 1886 is a very important numeric combinations for us. Our KSU 186 is called Navigating New Technologies. Actually, Mr. Love was the one who named the course quite by accident. He was the deal breaker at a semi-contentious faculty meeting in which he said, after like all these opposing, almost hothead opinions, and then Mr. Love goes, why don't you just call it Navigating New Technologies? And everybody just went, oh. And they all sat back in their chairs.
Good work.
Like, all right.
I took it, right? I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, I thought if he never did anything else the entire time, I'm fine with that,
He didn't even tell me about that accolade.
But it was like, just like make it stop. And he just like walked right in the door and said, here, let's call it this. But the point is that the Career Center is very, very important in that enterprise, because what we're trying to teach the students through that course, it's a project-based learning. And so they're looking at the history of progress. They're looking at the history of invention. They're looking at how to make themselves robot-proof, because it was inspired by Joseph Owen's book called Robot-Proof. And at the end of the course, the 1 semester course they take as second semester freshmen, their role is to do a team project that is design thinking based. So they have to identify the problem, reverse engineer it, and then figure out a solution that may or may not work. Because what we're also trying to teach them is the balance between risk, failure, innovation, and success. That if you don't try, then you don't know. And that although Enron kind of blew it with the smartest people in the room, that if you put a bunch of people together, though, those smart people are going to figure out how to become smarter working with each other. And that was also our experience with the strategic plan and the planning process. The more engaged and the more comfortable people became, the more talented they became, even though they weren't necessarily aware of it, but they became more articulate and they became a talent pool from just a group of people at the beginning who were chosen because they represented different facets of the university. And that was an organic process, because you don't know if that's going to happen when you've got 30 some odd people in the room. Will they coalesce? But they got stronger and they gained momentum. And so that's another really valuable asset that Ms. East is talking about, you know, using the alumni for momentum, using the community to build momentum and interest in the university. And so we have the advantage of the curricular point with the QEP, and then we have our career center, which, you know, when I got here 3 years ago, there was a part-time person. And so in order for us to even get to the QEP, we absolutely had to have someone. And, you know, we started with Mr. Love, we added Ms. East, but they have really done a remarkable job. You would never know that they did all the things they did in the last year, basically, because it's a seamless operation, it's a professional operation, it's a consistent operation, and the results are showing. And things like the Deloitte partnership and the way that we can talk about the Deloitte partnership and the work that they're doing in the strategic plan is going to be really valuable, because those of us who write the strategic plans know you have to have those high impact student stories.
Yeah.
So going back to what your question had been at the beginning about what is Ms. East's role in this, her job is to get that Deloitte thing to be spectacular, so that every time I turn around, the only thing I talk about is how in COVID-19,
yes,
8 students doing a virtual internship, and it was brilliant. It was splendid. And that's
and Dr. Schneller, she is so right. She is intentional. There has, in my 9 months, I have been called to meetings, and I'll ask Daryl, I'll say, are you supposed to be at this meeting? Surely Dr. Schneller then picked me, and he is not in the meeting. And I have pulled Dr. Schneller to the side, and I say, did you mean to invite me? She said, yeah, you're supposed to be here. Now let's get to it. It's so intentional about bringing me as a professional and career services to the table. And I can't say thank you enough for the investment. It really means a lot. This is my 3rd institution. So it means a lot to have a voice and to have a seat at the table. And I've said, if I didn't have a seat, I'm willing to bring my own. But I'm glad that you had a seat with my name on it.
Right. Fantastic. I want to, we have about 10 minutes left. So I want to be sure that we could get to some questions. And again, because it's a small group, people could just jump right in and ask questions of our presenters. So if anyone has anything, please step in.
I'll jump in. I have a quick one. I do want to say thank you, because where you guys are with your alumni and your career services, that's where we've been building over, I would say, over the last, 6 to 9 months, where we had all of these different programs. Like, we have a weekly career speaker series, and we're looking at, okay, how can we amplify that and bring alums to the table so they have that unique connection. So hearing this, it's reassuring that we're on the right path, and that what you guys were saying was that connection is key. That makes me feel good.
Well, and you know what I'll say, Bethany, regarding that, and I saw that yesterday when we did a presentation. We have what we call a pre-college academy. So we have about 35 students that are on campus right now, and it's an opportunity for us to see how the systems work in terms of social distancing and things of that nature. But we had an alumni from Kroger's. He works for Kroger's. He's from Kentucky State and everything else. And he came and he talked to the students, right? And then not only did he do that, but he gave him his cell phone number, and he's in human resources. Okay.
Wow.
So when you think about it, you're engaging your alumni to help support your institution from that one level. Now your alumni is coming back to be able to provide insights type thing. Because Miss East and I said to her, we were doing a lot of workshops like, okay, resume and handshake and LinkedIn. And I'm going like, and what we found throughout the COVID-19 environment, our partners still wanted to engage with us. So we started to say, let them go ahead and do some of these sessions, right? And so it gives them an opportunity and our students an opportunity to see fresh faces, but at the same time, they are making these connections with employers, right? Because I'm in a session with you, there may be only 8 or 10 of us. You have an opportunity to make an impression. And then you go like, let me follow back up with you regarding an opportunity. So we have just been able to, and we're rethinking this, even as we, because I told Miss East, I said, normally she was like, okay, well, the year is ending. We'll start for the fall. And I'm going like, wait a minute, what about the summer? I said, people are still hiring. And so, but that was just, my thinking. So
that was
really,
his corporate mindset. That was his corporate mindset.
So we are still engaging. We're putting out opportunities. We're still hosting virtual events. And so I think that, now, and I think our speaker said it earlier, is it just a semester by semester, or now do we do, year round? And what does that look like? What does learning and engagement look like? So that's the thing that I think that we are constantly trying to reimagine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I
Go ahead, Veronica.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead, Bethany.
Well, that was actually leading me into the question that I did have for you. You have all built this amazing foundation with Deloitte and with your other programs that you have. What are you doing to keep that foundation as strong as it is? But then what is your planned trajectory with everything going on?
So I'll tell you, we are at that foundational stage where we're like building trust. And ask me the question, what is this kind of translated into? Next year will be for us when I'm able to say, okay, and we're working right now with an internship advisory council, making sure that we can document and understand, did this translate into an internship, for you, right? And for that particular student. And so we really got to move more towards the tracking and then more of the satisfaction piece. So you have to now think about, let's measure how effective and what are going to be the true outcomes. So just connecting with employers and say, oh yeah, we got partnerships with this and these are things we're doing. What does that really translate to? So we're rethinking about like career fairs and things like that. Okay, yeah, so students came. What happened? How do you measure that? So I think for us, it's been like I shared with Ms. East yesterday. I'm like, when we get off a phone call with an employer, no, I'm creating an action plan. I'm recapping. This is what we said we were going to do. This is what you said you were going to do. And we've got to make sure that we live up to our commitments. And so I would tell you, foundational, we've just spent the last year building the foundation. Real work of really thinking about impact is going to happen next year. I think we're going to start to really be able to see a lot of the work that we've done next year. But because for us, it's been like, and I heard somebody say it on an earlier call, the relationship piece is so key. I just can't do my job by just being a pusher of paper and a process. I have to really get down and understand our students, and they have to build connections with us. And we have to be able to sit there and help them as they kind of go through the process.
Well, and to tag into that, we have a long history of faculty arranging their own internships and co-ops and networking. And so as our Career Center team moves into that, they've already started to connect with the people who connect with the students and put them in the community so that we have a better system, not just for tracking, but just to be sure that we know that we're doing the very best we can do. And I know that in a couple of cases, those links have led to additional links adding to the network, especially in the College of Business. So the internship oversight group, the advisory group are going to be really important in helping to streamline those sort of disparate processes that have taken place in the past. And, that helps to shore up the whole vision of what the purpose of the co-op, the co-curricular learning, the extracurricular learning can be. And then we can easily follow the guided pathways within another year of the student from the time they register for Handshake to the time they interview, to the time they do their internship and to their job. And with Ms. East's leadership and experience coming to us from Austin Peay, she's familiar with NACE and the First Destination Survey. So we're introducing that this year for the first time in a formal way, so that we'll be able to benchmark that data going forward. Because as the SAC COC liaison, the other thing I care passionately about is the assessment results and the data collection. So I'm very excited about that.
You know, and I will say that that's been very helpful for us. I mean, you know, like I said before, I think if you walk away with nothing else, you'll see that we are really heavy into collaboration among the three of us. And I think that just kind of helps put context. I mean, I don't just design something in isolation. I mean, I was at SAC's meeting. I was seeing what people are looking for as far as our accreditation. And so it shouldn't be a surprise when we get ready to now go through the reaffirmation process, because we should have been doing those processes, documenting and having that tangible evidence where it's like, boom, it's not. And so even if I leave the organization, we've already talked about having systems and everything else that keeps that information so that it is, it's there and it's available for individuals.
Perfect.
One thing that I would say for takeaways for the callers and viewers on the call, what we did actually this week, we created a tier 1. We'll roll into tier 2 starting next year. Create your tier 1 list of partnerships. Start there and just write them down, and then going into year 2 for us, then you move them to the next tier, just so you can try to navigate where are we with this partnership and where do they fall on our tier, because everybody's going to be reaching out to you guys.
And I'd like to address something for Ms. Nelson too, because we haven't been able to talk about study abroad because we don't have a very robust study abroad program at Kentucky State yet. I just stood up our Office of the International Student Experience this year. But the things I think, and you probably have heard this, but the things that we've been talking about here are highly portable to study abroad experiences, especially given your corporate background. Handshake is a great tool to use to do the exact same thing we're doing domestically, to do it internationally.
Excellent. Thank you. We have about 2 minutes. I didn't know if there were any other questions that people wanted to raise. I have one observation, unless somebody has a question, and mine's kind of a question. So what you're all talking about, and Tanika, what you just mentioned about relationships, your tier list, it goes hand in hand with advancement and fundraising. So
Absolutely.
my question was, for the strategic planning process, as well as for the corporate relations process, what was advancement's participation with you?
Oh, well, I can tell you initially, when we had a person, I think he has since left the organization, but he was over fundraising. A lot of times we would do these calls together. So I would be there and we would talk a little bit about, he would talk about the university and we'd talk about the organization. And then I would come in and I was talking a little bit about the internships and those types of things as well. Again, earlier on, I was still learning the institution. I was not as seasoned. I'm just just a little bit of salt now on me, I guess, with it. But I will tell you, going forward, when you talk about alumni relations and you talk about fundraising, it should all be in concert together because, I mean, really, because honestly, organizations, and I'm going to talk about from Beverly's perspective, it just went 30 seconds. When we would invest, like in the University of Kentucky, we would give money to the university, but the university is doing research. They're doing some other types of things for us. So it's a win-win situation. There's lots of in-kind things that would be donated to universities, et cetera, if there's a win-win. So I think you want to basically, again, that point of having your initial trust, you build a relationship, and then you continue to grow that relationship. And you have to go, you'll go deep. You'll think about it. Okay, classroom presentation, somebody serving on the advisory council board. The more that you can build a relationship with that organization, the more that organization is likely to go ahead and invest. And you may only have 5 or 6 key partners like that, but you have to be able to show the value add back to that university in terms of either research services or talent.
Exactly.
And on our strategic planning group, we had the director of alumni relations as well.
Perfect. Excellent. I love the collaboration. That's how we work too at Keene State. So it excites me to hear others and that it's working for you because we're, kind of moving through that process ourselves. Well, I want to thank everybody. We're a minute over time. So I think might shut us down if we don't shut ourselves down. But I did want to share that this has been recorded. I know all the presenters are comfortable sharing and having people.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I just want to say thank you so much for joining as attendees. Thank you so much for your poster presentations and
Thank you.
information. You've been wonderful and incredibly gracious, and we are so fortunate to have you with us. So thank you to everybody.